Welcome to your Unique Brilliance podcast with Nicola Salter, bringing you a weekly fresh flow of guidance, inspirations, powerful tips, and conversations designed to help you create your vision, discover your greatest diamond potential, and begin living the life you want. This is about empowering your truth, your choice, and your voice. I'm super excited to have Bonita Inza with me as my guest today. And she is a stress reduction coach based in LA. And Bonita uses quantum biofeedback, yoga, meditation, and coaching techniques to help clients identify and release unconscious stress patterns so they can move forward building and living their best lives. But Bonita's personal journey of reinvention and self-discovery has also been a constant theme in her own life. And in her professional career, she coached and she trained thousands of leaders, setting the stage for them to set up and to perform at their highest level. But in 2014, she left all this to found a tech startup focused on connecting beauty, fitness, and wellness to new clients. And she discovered that her personal passion for wellness and coaching, after meeting several talented practitioners who helped her through her toughest transition of her life that began a few years ago, was something that she wanted to do. And as she reached a certain age in her life, she realized that she was comfortable, but she wasn't happy, and she felt stuck. She felt stifled, like many of us do. And we are going to get to hear what she did next to change this. This is a great interview with super tips in it to share. And before we begin, let's take a moment to step into gratitude for someone or something in your life this week, or something today that makes you feel good and your heart smile. Just take a moment. Just feel that gratitude. Thank it. Quick smile here. Maybe a laugh. But really just take the moment to do this, as it distracts your brain and it brings you right into this present moment. And as you know, every episode at this point, I usually share a tip about an essential oil, a flower essence, or even a tea to support the topic of the show. And today, the flower essence I feel would really help you if you are about to make a change in your life or thinking about making a change and freeing yourself from the past is called Walnut. It's the Walnut Flower Essence by the Dr. Bach Flower Essence brand. And it's perfect for any kind of transformation you want to make when you know you're on the cliff edge, you're just ready to make that jump, and you need some help. This flower remedy helps you to recreate your life at a new level of experience, and I love it. A couple of drops on your tongue 4 times a day daily will help you take some leaps forward into a new venture or direction. And I often use this with my clients when there is some apprehension about taking their next best steps, that jump that they need to make. I want to talk a bit about transformation and taking those first steps to make a move into something new and different, reinventing yourself and what it takes. And of course, Bonita is going to share more with us and some tips that she's going to offer up about how you can expand on this. Taking a step into a new venture, career, or even a lifestyle takes some courage. It does take some courage for sure. And for some of us, this step is sometimes forced upon us, which I've talked about before. And I call it your motivating moment or pivotal moment, where we just know we have to make a change. But taking this step can be tricky because we just love staying in our old ways, even if it is toxic for us, because there is so much unknown fear of how this new venture, offering, idea is going to work out. And the only meaning that anything has in your life is what you give it. So that means you have the ability to attach importance to any experience or detach from it. It's up to you. And it's really important that you remember this. It's your own choice that you can decide that the only meaning anything has in my life is what I am giving it. So, again, that means you have the ability to attach importance or not to anything that's happened or that is happening to you. All right. So, for example, let's look at one of these examples I can think of. And I'm just thinking as I'm doing this, one that pops into my brain automatically is fairly recent. I was out on my sister's birthday. Her and I and a friend were on a jet ski, and we're jet skiing around the boat that was hired for her birthday party. It was beautiful. And we tipped the jet ski over, and it was really scary. The water was freezing. It was It was scary. I was scared. I really was. And of course, we couldn't get back on the jet ski. No one was around to come and help us. In the end, my sister, amazing, works out how we can get back on the jet ski. And we do that, and we're all shaking and shivering, and then the thing won't start. And finally, a boat comes out to help us. Now, this was celebrating her 50th birthday. So, of course, we get back on the ship, and we're a little bit shaky. And of course, we've got the memory, and we're talking about it, and then we're talking about it the next day, and then the next day, and I'm like, hang on a minute, everybody. Let's not attach too much to this. I want to turn this into the fact that I was in the water happening to have a swim at the time, and I'm going to train my brain to remember that, so I'm not attaching to the fear and the potential of sharks being around and all the stuff that was running through our heads as we were bobbing around in that water. So that's what I mean by, attaching. You have the ability to attach importance or not to any experience. I chose to drop the importance of the fear and being in the water and feeling vulnerable and what that felt like, to move into the celebration and what a great weekend we had and all of those things. So you have the choice. So not allowing that sneaky little, I can't do this, or who am I to do this feeling pop up is entirely up to you. Only you can manage this and discipline your brain to keep moving forward and asking yourself, where are these pesky feelings coming from, and giving me this totally distorted view of myself. This is just a truth that I'm making up as I go along. You can change it. You have the choice. And as I just said, these beliefs can come from the actions of what you've done or from others, or your false beliefs from the situation that took place, or even a place or person can trigger the most limiting responses that can hold you back. So the more you can trust yourself and the brilliance you do have, just as much as everyone else trusts theirs, and you are here to be on purpose, to enjoy offering your wonderful, unique skills and personality to everyone around you, and your essence, all right, it becomes easier to make a change and keep moving forward with it. There's a great book I'm reading right now that a client recommended to me. It's a book called Everything is Here to Help You by the wonderful Matt Kahn. And he, like many of us, examines the grace that surrounds us when we face devastating hardships that can help us see beyond our limiting beliefs, or we choose to stay in our limiting beliefs. Every time there is an opportunity for change for you, or transformation, we can either hang on to our limitations or walk through what seems like a storm, all right, to come out of the other side and be in greater harmony and more at peace with our new direction. And I always sense it's like going through a washing machine. It's not as if I have been through a washing machine, but the analogy of being washed, spun, and wrung out. And I like to think of that, and I also like that term baptism of fire, when life has been tricky, and through this baptism of fire, which seems like everything's hitting us at the same time, we get reorientated to a new direction, our new direction. So if you're looking at making a change, reinventing yourself, make a change with grace, all right? However the change is handed to you, make it with grace so it will keep you steady. Because immediately when we're in change, our brains go to, oh, no, I'm not getting what I want, so I'm being punished here. And that's not it at all. Making a change or transformation in your life, reinventing yourself with grace, means exactly that. Coming from gratias, grazie. All these words descend from gratia in Latin, which means gratitude and thanks. Giving thanks. And I'm sure you're thinking, some of you might be thinking right now, oh, I just can't give thanks for the change that I've just been through. What the heck is she talking about? Or a hardship that you're enduring and you really, really can't find the grace in it right now. I absolutely agree. And most of us think the same when we're in the eye of a storm of change or transformation, or we have to make a change, or we're wanting to make a change. But just remember, the grace might come, okay? This situation is happening for a reason, and this is a chance to reinvent yourself. I always remember talking with my sister, who I've just mentioned, about reinvention and Madonna. the singer Madonna, and how she does it. She still does it. She's amazing. As we reinvent ourselves, and my sister and I have been doing this for a number of years, we identified a long while back in London that people were needing to reinvent themselves. You couldn't just stay stuck. You had to keep moving with the times, keep obviously your core self, but just moving. And as we reinvent ourselves, we find different aspects or facets of ourselves that lie hidden. And these can jump out during these times, during a transformation. Pieces of ourselves that we'd just forgotten about or we didn't even know about. So I'm talking a lot here, I know, but to reinvent yourself means to bring back into existence. It's not that you were never here before, it's just you were here in a different way. Reinvention to me is super exciting. It's a perpetual cycle of growth and discovery and discovering different parts of myself. And there is no mistake that you and me were born in these times where social media and our fast-paced lives demand us to shift and reinvent ourselves. And yes, I know there are times when it's really tiring, but we are continually becoming better versions of ourselves as we are pushed to do this. I know it can be daunting, but if you can just keep at it, and I know you find the energy to do so, right? You may be moaning about it, but you're like, end up doing it. We always end up making that transformation. So if you are thinking of reinventing yourself, I would strongly encourage you to do this with someone standing alongside you to help you discover your qualities and all those strengths that you have, all those strengths that might be still hidden, and some of the patterns that you've had from the past, and how to actually use these patterns to help redefine yourself and move forward and use them as qualities. And this is what I do in my Redefine Yourself program for people wishing to truly come into understanding what they can really be doing in their life to build out their hopes and dreams and match it to who they are. Tailoring and creating a comprehensive offering or a service that they're excited to monetize that is a natural step for them, and standing next to them every step of the way so they can dive deeper into understanding why they act a certain way, patterns of belief they've created that they can move away from, how they can move forward. So it's a great mindfulness practice mixed with a unique business approach that helps generate income for you and fulfillment at the same time. And I'm so excited that I created this. I created this because I went through this myself. So step by step, it's something that I've done for myself and seen the success from it. So you might not see it now, but as you move through making the changes, you do grow, you do transform, you learn and expand. It is tricky for sure because we like to hang on to old patterns. But if you are thinking of reinventing yourself, making a change now, tap into some grace around it, some gratitude around this opportunity to make a change and transform, because the change will reorient you to a place of more fulfillment, deeper connection, who you are, more purpose, and opening you up to more harmony and even success and abundance. And now I am delighted to introduce my inspired guest, Bonita Inza, who's going to share with us her journey of change and transformation and how she did it gracefully, along with the key steps she feels are very important when you're going through transformation and what she actually used for herself. Bonita is a stress reduction coach, and she's based here in Los Angeles, and she utilizes quantum biofeedback, yoga, meditation, and coaching techniques to help her clients build and live their best lives. Hello and welcome, Bonita. It's so great to have you here today.
Oh, hi. I'm so glad to be here with you. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate your time, and I would love you to share with our listeners some background about yourself before we get tucked into our discussion.
Sure. I'd be happy to. I'm actually really excited that we're talking about reinventing ourselves today, because this has been such a theme throughout my life. As you mentioned in the intro, I'm a stress reduction coach, and that is quite a transformation from where I began. I actually had a very successful career in the corporate world, primarily retail and technology. I started as a retail salesperson, attending the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising. And I love that career because it gave me an opportunity to prove myself, and my success was based on accomplishments and my ability to deliver results and develop people. So it was a great education in itself. And over the course of 25 years, I kept rising through the ranks and eventually became Chief Experience Officer and Executive Vice President of a top retail organization based in the U.S.
Right. Wow.
But by this time, I got to tell you, I was a complete workaholic. I mean, I was working a ridiculous amount of hours. In my last professional corporate job, I was living in both New York and LA and traveling to our global headquarters in Paris on a regular basis.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
It's huge.
And it sounds so glamorous, and in many ways it was, but I was married and barely had time for my relationship, much less friends and families. Mm. And, I just wasn't taking care of myself, and it was a pretty high pressure environment. So, and actually, I'll share this. Mm-hmm. My job was actually eliminated in corporate reorganizations for the last 4 companies I worked for. Oh. So really high stress environment.
A lot of stress.
Lot. Yeah. And when I had the opportunity to start a tech company with 2 co-founders who I knew from the past, I jumped on it. Wow. And we created a new company from scratch, designing a mobile app for connecting beauty, fitness, and wellness professionals and clients. And I was the CEO of that company for the past 4 years.
Okay.
And it was during this time that I really discovered my personal passion for coaching and wellness after I worked with a number of the wellness professionals who were using our app. And it reminded me that had always been my favorite thing of my career, is coaching and developing. And so when that came full circle and closed, I decided that I was going to throw myself into really helping people with transition and stress reduction, given all that I had been through.
Exactly. Had perfect experience in all of that. And this is sadly the down part of the corporate world. Just as you described it, I was in London in the corporate world quite a while ago, but it was still extremely stressful. And there's just no time for yourself, is there? It's just, no.
No, not at all. And because I was so myopically focused on my job, and now when I look back, I can see how I was using that to cover up a lot of stuff that, I didn't want to look at. But right. I was so focused and so busy and, caught up in, the business and the drama of the business and everything that, I really set aside some of my values. And I think that's what started to really push me towards change.
Yeah, your values. And as you come to realize it's time to make that change and reinvent yourself, how did you decide that you needed to make this change? You moved from the corporate world into the tech company, and then you've moved from tech into coaching. Let's talk about that change from the tech into the coaching, because that's the most recent that you've made. When was that moment that you said, right, this is what I need to do now. This is my calling?
Yeah, it's interesting. I thought I was making that change, and I did my calling when I went from the corporate to the startup. Right. That was honestly just the tip of the iceberg. Mm-hmm. That saying, wherever you go, there you are.
Yes,
and
love that.
Here I was, thinking I made this big change, and I realized my life still wasn't working. And yeah, I think in retrospect, the startup was a really good bridge for me because I got to slow down.
Yeah.
I was working at a better pace with people I really enjoyed, doing something I really enjoyed, and I realized that something still wasn't working. Mm-hmm. And I had been going so fast, back and forth, New York, Paris, Los Angeles, and working so hard. I think when I slowed down, I really got to see that there were things in my life that weren't the way they should be. I was married to a great guy, but we hadn't really been in the same place a lot. And now suddenly I was there every day, and I had to look at how we had actually grown apart and our lives weren't working. Just a lot of things were starting to, bubble to the surface that I think I'd been holding down by being busy.
Yeah, and this happens so much in relationships. In terms of how they get affected because we're just not available, because we are pushing ourselves so hard to achieve and go. But yes, as you said, a lot of times we're just actually numbing down or pushing down things that we just don't want to address. And perhaps the relationship is no longer a fit, or there's further discussion and therapy that needs to take place for our listeners who are listening out there. These can be just some of the choices we need to look at. What was it that actually motivated you? Was it a person? Was it a moment?
when you decided, right, it's now coaching? I know you slowed down. Was there anything else?
I think what I started to feel that I was holding everything together with force. Like I started to have this ideal. I think what started to bubble up was my dream of what I thought life could be and what I thought was possible. And I started to see a big gap between what was and what I really dreamed. Oh, wow. And there wasn't a match. So I started first by looking at that void, and I really had to recognize that, if you want something different, you have to change.
You do have to change. Yeah.
And I really just came to a point where a couple things things kind of piled up, and it felt like everything shattered one day. And I was finally willing to let go and say, look, whatever's in my life, these structures that I've built in my life for the past 20, 30 years, I have to release my attachment to them and allow them to either grow to this vision of where life can be, how I know things can be, or allow them to fall away. But if I keep holding and clutching, it's not going to happen. So I finally got the courage to just release and allow, and that was a big moment.
Release and allow. Thank you so much for sharing this, because, so many of my clients say to me, yeah, well, I want to make the change, but I don't quite have the courage to do it yet, as you just shared that you found. But as you said, releasing and just allowing that flow, giving yourself permission to open up to the flow of opportunity that's around us. And as you said, when we hold on too tightly, there's no room for growth. There's no room for the flow to come in because we're squeezing the space so tightly. So it sounds to me that, opportunity, environment, but also that inner voice, that beautiful inner voice that you have, was driving this change, but it all had to come together, didn't it, at the right time, simultaneously?
Absolutely. I've always been a lifelong learner and personal development fan. So, I turned back to the things I knew. I went back to my yoga, my meditation, my spiritual practice for guidance. But what I did differently this time, I think this is really important. I hired my own life coach. I hired a wellness coach to help me stay true and to really identify what my dreams were and to be there for me as a mirror back to support and hold space as I went through this. And honestly, I didn't originally intend to have such a big transformation in my life. I just wanted things to, improve. Like, let's let the current situation improve. And, that's not what the universe had in store. So I couldn't have done it without these amazing people supporting me in my life.
Okay, and that's great advice. And I said earlier as well in this episode about when you're going to make a change, it's so important to have someone stand by you and shine a light on forgotten parts of yourself or new perspectives, but also hold us accountable. Right?
Yes.
It's that accountability, because as you're making that transformation, this is all so new that it is easy to slip. It is easy to slip back, and there is fear and there is that negative self-talk that can come over you. So having someone who you can just clearly define continuously your purpose, your dreams, the lifestyle, but the steps on helping you get there is so important. And, I know that you and I have talked that you're obviously coaching others, I'm coaching and mentoring others, but also coaching ourselves and mentoring ourselves on a daily basis is also part of it. Just because we're coaches and mentors doesn't mean to say that we've got it all 200% right?
There's that great saying, we see the world as we are, not as it is. Yes. And when I see it through my lens, and then there's somebody else to help me mirror that from a different perspective. And, the other thing that I think is so important is there's no judgment. You go to your friends, you think, oh, my friends are here for me or my family's here for me. Well, they kind of have their own biases. A good coach and a good support person is just going to love you and support you through the process and allow you to go through what you need to go through and be a mirror back. So I think that's really important.
And be a mirror back. Exactly. Everybody listening out there, coach should be a mirror back. There should be no judgments made or no personal agenda that they want you to follow through on. They're allowing you to be in flow and have your own journey. Can you share, as you were doing this and moving into your coaching, any anxiety and fears around these changes? What was bubbling up for you at the time?
Oh, gosh. I think initially I was in a state of denial because I really thought I could make my existing life work. You know, when my coach first asked me to write my dream of my new life, it was my existing life better. Oh. And I think that once, even though as I wrote that, I can remember writing this in my journal, and I knew that wasn't the truth.
Right. You just knew. Yeah.
I just wasn't ready to put it on paper. I wasn't ready. So yeah, I don't know if I really had anxiety, more just like, I'm not ready yet for this. Uh-huh. And it was really going through that process as I could see and started to accept. Once I released my grasp and things started falling away, I started letting them fall away instead of pulling them back.
Okay.
And once I allowed things to fall away, it made space for me to really look at what I wanted and how I wanted to feel and how I wanted my life to be. And at first, I couldn't even tell you, like, I want X, Y, and Z, and I want this and that. I focused instead on the feeling tones, like, how do I want to feel? You know, grace, comfort, ease, happiness, freedom, peace, love. Yeah. You know, these were the things I wanted to tap into. Yeah. So once I made that decision, I didn't get stuck in the anxiety anymore. It was interesting how it flowed differently.
Isn't it interesting? And I work the same way. It's about tapping into those feelings, those emotions of how you want to feel, rather than letting your brain dictate what kind of lifestyle it wants to construct for you. And as you move into that heart space of feelings and emotions, it does become, wouldn't say it's easier to follow through on, but you tend to stay on track more right, when you're coming from that deeper, more emotional place. And you talked about, making this transformation. And one of the words you mentioned was grace, and making a transformation gracefully. What does that mean for you?
Yeah, first, I think, as you said, we got to define, like, what is grace? And to me, grace is a state of being. It's a state of trust and belief and knowing that the universe, God, spirit, all that is supporting you and it's there for you. So being in a state of grace, to me, means really leaning into that with a feverish trust that I'm going to be okay, because there are powers greater than I am here willing to support me through that. So when we look at life through grace, we see beauty, we see oneness, we see the unconditional love that's beyond everything. And that is kind of a space, I think, that can be tapped into. Yeah. When we allow. And also it reminds me of when we surrender. And earlier in the episode, I talk about grace, actually coming from the word gracias and grazie, which means giving thanks, right? Mm-hmm. So as we surrender and let go and give thanks at the same time for the new space that we're moving into, it becomes more fulfilling and even more exciting sometimes. That's a great point, because the easiest access point to state of grace or any of this allowance and surrender is gratitude. Right. When we can't find, or when I can't find my grace right away, I look for things to be grateful for. Yeah. And it's a great access point.
It is a great access point, and thank you for clarifying that for the listeners, because, all of us are going to say, well, I don't feel very grateful for something today because we're just not there emotionally. And yet, if we just stop and pause, which is what I do at the beginning of every episode, just to say, just take a moment just to breathe and breathe in what you are grateful for today, it does bring on that emotion and that flow of energy of feeling more graceful to yourself, feeling more graceful to others. And if you can't access grace immediately, try stepping into some gratitude first and foremost, because that might help you. And absolutely. Yeah, As you were, reinventing yourself, you are reinventing yourself. You haven't, you're in the process of doing it, and you're navigating this transition. What are the most important steps for you right now? You've talked about having your coach, you've talked about grace, you've talked about the emotional part of this transition and feeling the emotions as you step into this new space. Are there any other important steps that you feel are important to share?
I think just to recap, kind of the key things are, and I still need to do this regularly, is take time to slow down and listen. It's so easy to get pulled into, especially these days, social media, what's happening on Instagram and Facebook and what's happening in the news. And, I always start my day very intentionally with, I have 2 dogs. I take them for a walk, and I call it my gratitude walk in the morning.
Love that.
And I think it's really important to take that slow down time. Meditation, we tend to live our life in, I won't get too technical, in brainwave states, a beta state, which is very busy. Mm-hmm. And if we can slow that down, we're able to have an access point to things that are far greater. And the other thing I think is I still ask for help. Right. I'm not trying to do this all on my own. I have a great support of friends and people, and my coach, who is always going to be there if I want someone to listen and as I said earlier, mirror back to me, and that is really helpful.
Wonderful. I was going to ask you about having people in your life to support you. I mean, apart from your coach and who's there for you, do you have friends, family, or do you have you sort of designated a certain friend in your life as well as your coach who you can talk to, and you just share most of this intimate work that you're doing with them, or do you keep it to yourself? How do you do that?
Oh, I definitely have an amazing group of friends. And, this is part of the transition. Like when I released my busyness and, the relationship that wasn't working and all of that, I have just amazing people in my life. I have some great girlfriends, and, just my family relationship is improved. And, that is, they're new connections, and they're people that are more on the same state in terms of where they are in their life and opening up to reinventing their life and living their best lives. So, yeah, that's definitely made a difference. I have one great friend who we do yoga. We have Wednesday yoga day, and we'll go to coffee beforehand and do yoga. And we are doing A Course in Miracles together slowly. So,
lovely.
Oh, yeah. So she'll text me the lesson of the day, and I'll read through and find, something that stands out. So, it's just great to have people that are kind of at the same space, in the same space. Yeah. And that's really fun.
Yeah, like spirited souls, and in your tribe, in that community that you create, everyone helps to keep each other up and moving forward, and it is so important. It's so much easier when there's other people that you can do with. And it's interesting that you should bring up also, creating the time, improving your friendships, improving family time, because you did slow down, you did make a change. Making a change isn't often just about the new career or direction you take. It spills over into so many areas of your life. And I know that we all do this. We can get busy, and forget to actually carve out time for those, relationships and friendships, where even if it's every other week, or if it's a quick call or a quick text, life isn't just about the work, the career. It's about this holistic approach and having that lifestyle which encompasses everything, because of course then it makes us more balanced, right? And our creative flow is even more heightened.
Absolutely. It
Wonderful.
Really is.
Wonderful. So in terms of, you've stepped into what I call your unique brilliance. You've defined your passion for coaching. You've identified that because of the experiences you've had during your life and the work you've done with others. As you've moved into this, how I get a sense of how your life is different now to what it was, but what's the best part of your new life?
The best part of my new life is that I feel like it's safe to really dream the big dream.
Oh, I love that.
And I actually started this year with attending the Mary Morrissey Dream Builder workshop.
Okay.
And she says that, if you can write down your dreams and you can make a plan to achieve them, that's not a dream. That's just a goal.
Mm-hmm.
And a dream is so much bigger. And that really influenced me. I'd started with like some things I knew I wanted to do this year and accomplish. And then I was kind of going, well, maybe I can do this one, but not that one. Why was I limiting myself?
Right.
Why am I editing out my dream? Like, oh no, that's too much. That's too big. You can't do. And after that, I came back. I was like, no, we're not going to do this. Mm-hmm. I actually got out my calendar and I wrote down in every month something I would love to do. Like maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't, but like write down what you love, and that like stop editing your dream. And that was a huge aha for me. Like, dang it.
You'd be amazed. We all do it. We all edit our dreams out, either because we feel we're not good enough or whatever it is, that crazy talk that we tell ourselves. But also sometimes it's because we're just not used to stretching our imaginations or stretching into this because it's so new, and it just shows us how squashed we've been.
Exactly.
And you recognize this, and you're allowing yourself to stretch beyond the stars, stretch beyond the unseen, and become that limitless potential that you have. That's what your limitless potential is, that extensiveness that we all have. That's so good to hear, because I know I've done that before quite a few times.
And also, like, because I'm 56, and I'm doing things now that I just said, I don't care how old I am, right? Mm-hmm. Or how young I am to do these things. So, like, I learned to snowboard this year.
Did you? Oh, that's amazing. Well done.
I skied, but like I'm up there, I'm going to take a lesson. So, hey, let's snowboard,
Oh, you're brave. You're so brave. That's amazing.
I did my 200-hour yoga teacher training certificate this year.
Fabulous.
So, these are all things like between editing out my dream and thinking, oh, well, I'm to this or to that or not ready, or like, we just got to let that stuff go and allow the dream to be the dream and allow it. Allow it. I can't say that enough.
I love that. Everybody allow it. And that you've basically answered one of my questions, which is, can we make transformations at any age? And as you said, whether you're younger, older, wherever you're at, so we put so much emphasis on numbers and age in this society. It's crazy. And there's this cultural expectation of what you need to achieve, right, at every age and what you should have. And of course, it puts out and it destroys any hope of dreams because of all these other things that you've got to meet that we're told that we should do, which is fair enough, the structure and foundation, but it becomes so rigid. So transformation at any age, as you're showing us and what you've been doing. I mean, snowboarding, come on. I mean, oh, you're so brave. I think that's amazing. I love that. And I do think the younger generations, i.e. the teenagers right now in terms of younger, and especially the girls, are really more embracing of this. They find it easier because they've got their older generations who are encouraging them. But even so, sort of for the 30 to 40 somethings and upwards, there is still that tendency to hold back and get caught up in the money earning, the career, just like you did, just as you shared, just as I did back in London, until we had that wake up call. And transformation at any age, everybody. So whatever you're looking to dream, just do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Allow your dream to come through, listen to it. And, we all know deep inside when we're being authentic.
Right.
Or inauthentic to our dream, and our dreams want to emerge. So be there regardless of your age.
Regardless of your age. And it is interesting, though, what you said about how you did edit your dream out. I have noticed with a lot of clients when they first come in to start working, they do edit that dream. They do hold back. And, as you said, Bonita, it's so important to work with somebody who can just put that spotlight on, are you holding back, and ask you that question and actually give you permission, right, to allow the dream.
Exactly. And, one thing I really respected about the coach that I have, I know she was looking at what I gave her as my dream and thinking, okay, but she never put that in my face. She's like, okay, great. So, she was so supportive in that process and allowed, that word keeps coming up, allowed that to emerge from me and gave me the little hints and support along the way. But, so much of what we do, and this is one thing that my coach also helped me with, is I started to realize how much is controlled by the unconscious mind versus the conscious mind, where we say, oh, I want to do this, or this is my dream, I want my life to be like that, and we keep getting stopped, and it's usually we get in our own way of beliefs that are unconscious based on things that happened early in our life that we're not even aware of anymore. And I feel like slowing down and going through that process just kind of has allowed those things to bubble to the surface so that I could deal with them and release them and move forward. And that has been really helpful too.
Yes, and that's a very important point. It's very difficult to identify that almost impossible subconscious mind when you're dashing around busy and distracting yourself. As you slow down and discover the space, of course it becomes easier to become more self-aware and observe yourself in terms of what am I actually really doing here, and those subconscious messages, that self-sabotage, all of those lovely patterns that we build up from past experiences that we've had, become our new belief patterns. So moving away from those, which is the work I do as well, the sabotage is so important before you can even make the change, because as you said, of course, it will stop you in your tracks if you don't identify those. So slowing down, so important, slowing down and enjoying it. How do you balance everything now? I mean, it sounds like you're still doing a lot in terms of learning, and then the coaching and the friends, and then all these different things you're embracing. How do you balance all of this?
I'm still working on balance. Honestly, that's one of the things I think I will always, be working through. But I honestly, as I mentioned earlier, I put my calendar together at a very high level. And I said, what would I love to do this year? And that has been really important for balance. So getting things kind of sketched out, making those priorities, making time for the things that I know are important to me, and staying connected to that dream, reviewing it, nurturing it, knowing what it is, so that I can always have a quick checkpoint of whether I'm on track or off track. And that has been, a really important part of it.
Yeah, I love that. That's a really good piece of information, and I hope everyone who's listening might be able to do the same thing. And I know in my scheduler, in my planner, it's writing out the dream every month, what I achieve, what I want to achieve, but more about who I want to be, and reminding myself as I do that, and even scheduling time in for time out.
Exactly. Someone I studied under a long time ago talked about making a perhaps list instead of a to-do list.
I love that.
So I love that, because sometimes I hate my to-do list. Now, I do love checking things off my to-do list, that sense of accomplishment, and I have been known to write down some things so I can cross them off. But I usually title it perhaps list. There's just something about that, feels a little bit less guilt-inducing if I decided to change my mind.
Yeah, and I love that, because of course sometimes on your to-do list things will spill over into the next week, the following week, and perhaps allows that expansion, doesn't it, of things that will get done, but perhaps not at the time that you think. So
yes. Wonderful.
So finally, with every client, every person, I should say, who comes onto this show and who I just adore, because I'm always so lucky when people come on to share their wisdom, I always ask them, what nugget of wisdom would you love to share with us? What nugget of wisdom would you love to share with us about identifying something that we can change and then make it happen? Is there a nugget of wisdom you can share?
Yeah, let's see. Well, I think the most important thing to remember is self-acceptance. We are where we are. And there's a lesson or a message in every situation. I believe the universe is always speaking to us in subtle and sometimes not so subtle ways. And when we ignore it, resist it, push it away, it will boomerang back to us. Mm-hmm. So the harder we throw that boomerang, the harder it hits us back. And, the fact is there's a natural law, what you resist persists.
Yes.
So, my best advice is to learn to sit with it, acknowledge it, and ask it what the lesson is. Because life is happening through us. Life isn't happening to us.
Wonderful.
So the only way out is through. Mm-hmm. And it takes practice to let go, with love and allowance, and to trust with grace that nothingness, basically literally breathing grace and ease into it to know that, this is all going to pass.
Yes.
And I think on top of that, it's super important to know you don't have to do it alone.
Yes.
Because there are so many talented coachers, healers, professionals that are here to support and help. And I know from my own experience how valuable it was to have someone by my side to listen and reflect. And, it really made the journey a lot lighter. And I'm eternally grateful for that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Bonita. Thank you. Thank you. Where can we find you?
So I am here in the Los Angeles area. I do in-person and remote work with clients. And you can find me on my website, which is living-bonita.com.
Beautiful. And you had that beautiful bell tone ring just as you were saying it. The angels appeared.
The angels appeared. Living Bonita.
Livingbonita.com. Well, I'm also going to put that on the newsletter that goes out so everyone can find that. And it will also be on the iTunes link, but livingbonita.com. Thank you so much. Thank you for the angels appearing just at the right time.
Oh, I'm glad they're here with us always. I love it.
That was wonderful. Thank you for a fabulous interview.
Thank you for listening to Your Unique Brilliance podcast. And if you want to define your brilliance and redefine your diamond potential, schedule a personal consultation with me to discover just how you can do that at nicolasalter.com. While you're there, make sure to subscribe to the show so you will never miss an episode. And if you found value in the show, I would appreciate a rating on iTunes, or simply tell a friend. That would be amazing. You are amazing. Have an empowered week, everyone.